Okay, we're doing an installation of EnviroSCAN in an apple orchard today. First thing to do when you want to put the probe in is to actually work out where you're going to put it, and that's governed really by the dripper location. So you need to get down and have a look, actually find out where it is. I've just marked this one already, but it's really just a matter of running your finger along and working out exactly where the dripper is. There's a plate that has to be attached to that first. Make sure it's in the correct position, and what you want is your probe to be within 10 centimeters of that. So I've chosen the position here. I'm going to put the probe in. Start with everything loose. Like that. And we put the pins in. You just rotate that pin so that you can get it out later. And loose. You have a spirit level here, and you want to arrange it so that the bubble is in the center. So to do that, I find the easiest way is to use the sledgehammer and just rotate it around. That little bubble is now in the center, and when it is, you tighten everything off. So nice and tight. Make sure that your bubble's still in the center. The tripod has a feature in here that has a little tooth in it. I find that just damages the tube, so I make sure that is out of the way. It's got a little tooth there. I find it just scratches the tube and wrecks it, so I don't use it at all. Access tube, just make sure it's square, cut at the factory. And what we do to get the cutting ring on is essentially chamfer a little piece of the plastic off, just taking a little piece off all the way around, and now I can quite easily push that in. Just use the sledgehammer to tap that in. Fitted cutting ring. We've got the tripod nice and tight, got the tooth out of the way. We're ready to begin. I'll just work that into the soil a little. And the first dolly you use is the heavy duty dolly. This is a steel dolly. It has a extension on here, so you can actually put part of your extension rod. You can attach part of that extension rod onto there, and you can insert that together. This is the good bit. Use the sledgehammer. So that's 1.5 meters plus the auger itself. So what I want to do is basically auger to a distance equal to the actual auger length. So I'll insert this and keep augering until it's probably up to just slightly shy of the top hole there. So here we go. Just look out where you're going. We've got wires in the orchard here. We've also got a above tree netting. So you just start slowly. thing here is not to go too far too soon, or the auger will go crooked. Tool. Most useful piece in the kit really is this cleaning tool. It has a plastic handle which I find most useful, I'll tell you in a minute, but essentially it is designed so that you can insert it into the auger and lift out the soil like that. If it doesn't, I just generally give it a thump, and that compresses the wet soil in there and it just falls out. So what we want to do is auger. We probably want to auger to that depth, so we keep going. So we're almost there, and we've just got another 5 or 6 centimetres of the metal dolly. Now, you don't want to go too far, you'll end up compressing the soil. So just leave a half a centimetre or a centimetre gap, and that's as far as you can go with that dolly. Now we just have to judge it a little bit because you won't be able to see exactly where that hole is in relation to the depth, but we just keep going. Hammered that in to the line on the dolly, so that's at the right height now. So we can now extract the dolly. That's as far as I'm going to be able to go. So to get the tripod off, we release all of the screws, give it a bit of a shake, and then you use this positioning of the pin in the correct way so that you can actually just wink that in. Use it as a leverage, and then once it's free like that, it should slide up fairly easily. Correctly move it over to the side. You can see now the access tube is at the correct height. If I have a top cap, thanks, the top cap, this is called the datum plate or datum plate. That point there, that's at the surface. So if you've got the tube in the right spot, then, oh careful, that datum plate should be at the surface. So that's about 4.5 centimetres depth in there, to put that at the right point. And if that is at the right height, then when you put your sensor in and rest it on the top lip here, every 10 centimetre sensor will be at the correct depth. So this soil I found today is fairly sticky, it's fairly heavy in clay, so I find the spiral tool really good for shaving off some of the clay that has coated the inside of the access tube. So we'll put that on the auger. So this tool, it's important to not lose it at the bottom. It can get caught on the cutting ring at the bottom. I'll make sure that I don't lose it. And this will take off any of that clay Just got to keep an eye on your depth. But the access tube is 1.5 meters, so that'll be that depth. So I won't insert it completely. I'll have to leave something above the top of the access tube. But the idea is to sort of scrape on the way down on the inside of the access tube, just pushing. It's about as far as I feel safe going. I haven't heard the metal, but there we are. That's the metal. So we don't want to go any further because we might lose the tool. Okay. So you don't want that clay in the access tube because it will stop the bung sealing. Okay, here's the cleaning tool. That's just an old rag tied in a knot on the bottom of the cleaning tool. And I'll use a little methylated spirits. So I'll just throw a little bit on there. Doesn't need to be a lot. The idea of using methylated spirits is that it evaporates in this sort of temperature. It'll clear a lot better than water. So I'll just move that up and down as I work it down. It won't get caught at the bottom because it's just a rag. Get that out. Do a bit of a shake away from your eyes, or have your glasses on. And we'll just do that a couple of times. So we need to wait a few minutes, let that methylated spirits evaporate. You might have a torch, but if you don't have a torch, just use your mobile phone and have a look. The other tool we have in the toolkit is a brush tool. This is a coarse brush. It's quite good picking up clay, not very good for sand, but very good for picking up loose clay or a dirty access tube. So that's another tool at your disposal. You can use that if you need to. So now we've cleaned the access tube with methylated spirits. We've let it sit there for a few minutes to dry. Now we want to insert the bung. This is the bung. This will seal the bottom. This will seal the bottom of the access tube. The way it works is if you tighten this, it squeezes on these two rubber rings. So that compresses them and expands them out. So I'll release that as far as I can for the moment. Keep it somewhere clean until you're ready. We have a bung tightening tool that goes on the bottom of the extension rod. This one will fit into that, and it will actually sit in that point there. It's got a little retainer there. It's got a spring that retains it, so you can push that all the way down or up, and then to get it to recover this and leave the bung in the tube, you essentially give it a twist and pull up at the same time, and it releases that bung. You insert it and you don't drop it. Insert it and tighten to begin with. So I'm tightening that up so that it just meets some resistance. So I can push that up and down like that. And I'll just tighten it a little bit. You get a bit of a feel for it after a while, but there we go. So that's not going to go anywhere. If I can release it now, I haven't lost it down the bottom of the access tube. So you engage the bung tightening tool. It's now engaged into the top of the bung. And I'll lean on that to push it down, and you'll hear a sort of a pressure release as you go down. And you see a sort of a rebound. The air is compressed into that. So it's showing you that you've got it nice and tight. And essentially I'll go all the way down to the cutting ring, and then I'll raise it just a little bit up. You hear that release of gas? That's as far as I can go by the feel of it. Yep. And now I'll tighten it. This is the final tightening. It gets harder. You don't want to go too far, but you want to make sure that it does seal. Until I'm satisfied that it's as tight as it can be. There we go. Do that. Okay. That's as far as I could go. And now all I've done is released it. So that was installing one bung. If you're on a water table, it's sometimes necessary to put two bungs in. So you put the first bung in, get most of the water excluded, and then clean the access tube, empty the water that seeps in the time that you were waiting to do that, and clean all that water out, and then put another bung in. Again, you can clean with a bit of methylated spirits to clean the access tube again. It just means that you've got less room for sensors. You've got to allow 13 centimetres for a bung.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so we're just inserting the system. I'll just use a piece of wood and a sledge. Orient it in the direction of north in the southern hemisphere and south in the northern hemisphere. I think it's north. So it's got an aerial. It's got a modem in here and the EnviroSCAN Plus. We haven't wired it in yet, so we'll do that now and then turn it on. So that's the wiring for the RS232. It will be different wiring for the 485 and for the SDI12. You just need to check the manual on those. So that's the wiring for the 232. I just need the glue. I find it easiest to insert the wire before you put this and glue it onto the top cap. That's just a preference. So the wiring that I remember, red, orange, brown, black, blue, purple, green, yellow. You'll do this so many times that you'll do it in your sleep. Red, orange, brown, black, blue, purple, green, yellow. I'll release the cable gland. That's called a cable gland, that black section. And just thread that through. Sometimes it's easier than others. goes through. Just loosely tighten, don't tighten at all. Take the top cap off. Pull that through, give yourself a nice long section to begin with. Okay. We're in the country. So now we've got to do the rewiring on this one. So we'll get the final length at the last minute. So I just won't tighten that one yet. But the idea is that you want to leave a little section that you can twist into the top cap and attach to the centre of the probe. So a couple of things. You really need to seal around the cable gland on the inside. We just shoot a little bit of glue into that. And I'm just using a little bit of gentle persuasion to get that in. There we go. So that seals around there. I also seal this section here. Okay, so that's now ready, and what we do is make 3 rings of silicone. Okay, so we put some silicone around there, just put it on one surface and then just give it a twist as you put the cap together, so that you get a nice seal. And I always point the cable towards the system. Moisture sensors, they're all, you can tell that by the white plastic, they're all moisture only sensors. If they have a blue plastic there, they'll be tri-scan sensors, which will measure a surrogate for salinity. There's a circuit at the top, that's called the interface, and that's where we'll be able to talk to each individual probe, each individual sensor, Each individual sensor is then interrogated by this section of interface. So that's ready to go in. When you're putting it in, just pull the cable out of the way so that you don't impede the flow of the sensor going in, the probe going in. Just put it down. And in this case, yeah, there's a couple of little lugs here that that locate the position of the probe rod. So you just make sure that those 2 lugs line up with the cutout of the plastic. So that section there goes down across the 2 lugs like that. Once you've got the correct position, you can tighten that cable gland. And you can put silicone over the cable gland too if you want an extra layer of protection. silica gel bags to remove excess moisture. They come with the kit. All I do is thread it through the handle. And leave it there. And that's now complete. We can now test the system on the computer. So you just got to make sure before you go anywhere, tie it nice and tight, put back in the right position, and see that the values actually make sense. If some of the values are really low, then it means there's an air gap on your access tube. If it's less than 1 millimetre of moisture, then I would say it's an air gap. In this sort of area, I wouldn't expect anything less than 35-40 millimetres because it's fairly heavy clay.